Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the Mustardcast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. So, from here on out, we are officially going to be a bi-weekly podcast. After trying out the weekly schedule, we realized that it would be more beneficial to post bi-weekly. And during the in-between weeks of those recordings, we'll basically post clips from the last episode throughout that week, pretty much every day. Because I know a lot of people, some people don't have, attention span to sit down and watch a nearly 2-hour-long podcast. So
Right.
watching it in clips will give them, something that they can focus on. And also, they get to pick and choose which segments they want to watch. Because some of the things we talk about, some people might not be as interested in. So they could just, basically pick and choose which parts that they're most interested in. I also would like to correct a mistake that we made in the last episode about PS Now. We said that when you got PS Now, you also had to still pay not only for the subscription service to get access to those games, but you didn't have to pay for those games on top of that. That isn't true. Just like Netflix, once you pay for the subscription, you have access to all of those games. That doesn't change the fact that you should still have the option to buy those games outside of that subscription service, and that subscription service should be bundled with PS Plus for them to
Bad business practice regardless.
bad business practice regardless. But a little bit more information about PS Now is that the monthly subscription is $9.99, 3 months $24.99, and a year is $59.99. So yeah. Now on to the episode. What media we're consuming. I'll let you start since I've been talking so much.
Okay. I'm going to start with my least favorite media that I'm consuming to my favorite media that I'm consuming. And I feel like I should preface this by saying none of this media is bad. The only reason I'm saying least favorite and favorite is because I do have very obvious favorites and least favorites. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, rewatching Once Upon a Time. Really, it was one of my favorite shows when I was a child, and I didn't make it very far into the show, and then the show concluded, so now I'm rewatching on Disney Plus. I love fairy tales. I love Disney very much, so that's definitely my type of show. I've been playing Star Wars Squadrons, not as much as I want to because it's college, but I have been playing Star Wars Squadrons. I love it. My childhood dream was always to fly an X-Wing, and that's exactly what this is. Star Wars Squadrons is an amazing game. The story, I like the story. I don't know what people were expecting. It's a flight simulator. I don't know why they were expecting a 72-hour-long campaign that delves into the horrors of war. It's a flight simulator in Star Wars.
Much like with Spider-Man Miles Morales, if people get upset that it's too short, after they pay $40 for it, you need to go back and realize you just paid $40 for it when you know for a fact that games are usually $60 and have now been bumped up to $70, but you're paying $40 for it. So it's obviously not going to be as much as a $60. It's not going to have there are exceptions, but for the most part, games that cost less than $60 don't tend to have as much content as a $60 game.
Right.
So people should always keep that in mind when you're paying less than $60 for a game.
Okay. Yeah, no, if you're paying less than $60 for a game that's not used, if you're paying less than $60 for a game that just came out, don't expect a AAA experience. I don't really know what you were expecting. Finally, though, aside from a bunch of chemistry videos because my teacher doesn't teach, I just yesterday watched Tenet, which is for the first time. It's the type of movie that you should watch multiple times to really understand everything. I think I got everything the first time around. Not bragging or anything. I literally think I don't really missed much. I didn't really miss much. I'm definitely gonna have to go back and watch at least the beginning of the movie because I'm not gonna, if I even begin to try to get into it, it's major spoilers all around. But it's easily my new favorite movie. My favorite movie up to this point has been Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl. This overtakes that movie. Oh, go ahead.
I'm saying Black Pearl is a great movie. It's really long. Every single one of those movies are longer than you remember.
Yeah.
Like you'll be like, man, like even if you remember it being long, it's longer.
Yeah. But I love those movies anyway. I love almost all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Curse of the Black Pearl is easily my favorite Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
My favorite is at World's End, and then it's Curse of the Black Pearl.
Honestly, I didn't like At World's End all that much, honestly. And I feel like it's like wild for me to say that because it's like a bunch of people's favorite. And I'm just like, I didn't like it that much, but Curse of the Black Pearl, definitely my favorite. But Tenet overtook that by a long shot. I love spies. I like sci-fi. I like time travel. And there's a badass black man as the main character. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's just amazing movie. Great movie all around.
So, what I've been consuming. So, I finished JoJo Part 4, which has probably one of my favorite characters in it. The main villain of the second half of that season of that part was probably my favorite. I should preface that Part 4 is technically season 3, but the books are separated by parts, and each part is by a different generation of that family. The first two parts were the first season because they were the shortest. The first part is only 9 episodes, and then the second part is the rest of those episodes, and it's only 26 episodes for season 1. And then the next part 3, is just one part, but it's double the amount of episodes of season 1. So that's why part 4 is in season 3. But I'm halfway through part 5, and it's fantastic. It's probably my favorite part now, despite the fact that part 2 used to be my favorite part. And the JoJo in that part I don't think he's my favorite. He's probably my second favorite now, though. Joseph from part 2 is probably still my favorite JoJo. I also watched Burn the Witch, which is the anime adaptation of the what is it called? The miniseries that Tite Kubo, the creator of Bleach, made, which spoiler alert, this isn't that big of a spoiler, but spoiler alert just in case you don't want to know this. Burn the Witch is a continuation of Bleach. It happens 2 years after the epilogue of the manga, and it takes place in the western district of the Soul Society, which is basically it takes place in London. I also have been replaying Spider-Man on New Game Plus, and I've been exclusively wearing the Spider-Verse suit because it's probably my favorite suit in the game. It looks
too many DLC, so I can't have the Spider-Verse suit. So
the Spider-Verse suit looks really good. I'm gonna mention I've been watching a lot of anime. So there's been a sequel series to Inuyasha called Yashahime, which is about Inuyasha's brother's children. And another anime I started watching Fire Force, which is made by the same creator that made Soul Eater. That's been cool. But actually no, I'm at 2 more things. The last anime that I've been watching, last but not least, I started watching on a whim because I saw an ad for it on Twitter, and it showed a dope fight scene. And when I would go to Crunchyroll, it would be at the top of the page when I went to watch JoJo or Fire Force. So I was like, I'll check it out. I watched it. It's really cool, and it has one of the best anime ending themes I've ever heard in my entire life. It's by the group name Ali. I can't remember the name of the song for the life of me. Even though I've been listening, I was literally just listening to it this morning, but I can't remember the song right now. But it's the group that did the theme song, also that did the ending theme song, also did the opening theme song for Beastars. So they make some really good music. Last but not least, I've been reading Hirohiko Araki's book called Manga in Theory and Practice. Hirohiko Araki is the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And actually, here it is. I've been reading this book, which is basically about the creation of manga. and I'm basically using it to help become a better storyteller. Since I myself want to make video games and just potentially, if I can, honestly, just have a company that makes video games, animation, movies, whatever. I just want to have a production company that makes all types of entertainment. But I'll have to work hard to get towards that. This is the first step. This podcast is the first step. So, moving on to current events.
I did just want to pop in here and say something I forgot. Media I'm about to be consuming as soon as I can. I just found out that one of my favorite authors, Jim Butcher, wrote a Spider-Man novel, and I'm going to be getting my hands on that as soon as I possibly can. So, yeah.
That's cool. So,
yeah.
What has Jim Butcher written before that you like?
He's written some fantasy series that I don't remember the name of, and then he also is currently writing a very long-lasting and very famous fantasy series, modern fantasy, called The Dresden Files, which I am reading, and it's one of my favorite books. We talked about this a little bit, yeah.
We started talking about that was because I was talking about how much I like werewolves. You talking about how you didn't like it that much, but that The Dresden Files, the way they used werewolves was interesting to you, and the way they used werewolves in that story is the way I always want werewolves to be used.
Okay.
I love werewolves, but we don't want to take too much time talking about that like we did Harry Potter. So,
right.
Current events, the election is coming up. Election day is November 3rd.
Register to vote.
But early voting starts October 26th through the 2nd of November. And then official election day is the 3rd, like I said. Register
to vote.
Love of Christ, register to vote.
I'm sorry, but register to vote.
For whatever reason you don't trust the postal service, go and vote in person if you have to. Wear a mask, obviously. Be safe, but vote any way you can, because we need to get Trump out of office. Let's be real.
Yeah,
we're not going to sit here and mince our political views for risk of like people being upset and stop watching the show. We don't care. If you don't agree with us in terms of that, then we don't want you here, honestly.
Right.
Vote. That's all it really is. There's honestly not much to do with it. Because if any resources you need, if you Google how to register to vote, the first thing that will pop up is the website you need to register to vote. It takes what, like not even 10 minutes?
It took me way less than 10 minutes. All you need is
It doesn't take very long.
Your ID, your social security number, I think. I don't remember. I did it last year, but yeah.
I actually did it this year because despite the fact that I'm about to turn 20, I wasn't really, when I turned 18, I wasn't really thinking about voting. But this year, naturally, with all the things that's going on, I was like, I need to vote. This is, like I said, this is going to be my first year voting. We both have our mail-in voting ballots.
I'm not even going to flash at the screen because, no.
That has your address on it?
Yeah, it's my address, my whole, yeah, no.
Yeah, don't do that, man. But yeah, that's all we wanted to say. Make sure you register, and then make sure that you actually do vote after you register. If you, and the internet is your biggest resource. If you don't understand something, Google it, ask a family member, ask a peer, someone. If you need help, ask someone, because this needs to happen, and you don't want to make a mistake and have your vote not be counted. So
right.
We're gonna go to our new section. We're gonna start with comics, actually. So Speed Metal. Speed Metal is a story that takes place within Dark Knight's Death Metal, which that's
DC universe. In case you don't know.
That's a whole other conversation that we're gonna have that I already have planned out. But basically,
Dark Knight's Metal.
About DC becoming the Dark Knight verse in general, but
okay.
Basically, this story focuses on the Flash family. Basically, it starts off with Barry, Wally, the original Wally West. Because for people who don't know, there are two Wally West. There's a black one and there's a white one.
I like both of them.
I like both of them as well. I prefer the original one, but
Same.
and Jay Garrick, who's the very first Flash. They're running from the Batman Who Laughs, who a lot of you probably have no idea who I'm talking about. Who's basically
better that you don't.
The
Batman Who Laughs sucks.
Batman FU was the Joker. It's literally a Batman and Joker fused. I'm not gonna get into how that happened because that's too much. But it's basically he's become he's basically become reality altering powerful, and he's chasing after Wally West so that he could take the powers that Wally has, because Wally has also become reality altering powerful. Like they both have basically become as powerful as Dr. Manhattan, plus the abilities they already had. So
actually, Wally does have Dr. Manhattan's powers.
Yeah, I know,
that's why he's that powerful. Yeah.
They both have a portion of Dr. Manhattan's powers. So he's chasing him so that he could take the powers from Wally and become even more powerful, so that he could stop that lady. I forget her name. And basically, what I want to talk about is that story is that I feel like they over-explain the Speed Force.
Okay.
Not over-explain. They go too deep into it. For the average viewer, the people who aren't that into comics but are somewhat interested, they would be confused if they haven't been reading comics their whole life. Like, just jumping into a comic nowadays, I feel like is a little bit harder because there's so much information that you have to catch up in terms of how the Speed Force works. It's basic. In reality, it's basic in how it works.
Very.
But the more you talk about it, the more confusing it gets, when essentially it is literally just they can run fast and they have access to a dimension that has a bunch of energy that they siphon from to make them run fast. And on top of being able to run fast, they can also create things out of the Speed Force, like materialize things like clothes. Like Wally, for example, makes his uniform out of the Speed Force. And also, there's a lot of other powers that you wouldn't expect them to have, because, you know, when you think of the Flash, you think they can just run. But they can do way more than that, because the Speed Force is a little bit more, not a little bit, a lot more than just super speed. But that's all I want to say. It's just sometimes I don't think that the Speed Force is the biggest offender. I think that of all of the things that get over-explained in comics, the Speed Force is the least of your worries. Like 100%, the Speed Force in reality is very simple. I just wanted to use that as an example because it is a recent comic that's come out focusing on those characters.
Very recent.
And also, Wily's probably he's definitely my second favorite DC superhero after Batman. And there are some things that just I hate when people over-explain things. I'm not sure if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but sometimes I feel like the origin of something doesn't always need to be explained. Like, for example, in The Legend of Korra, when they explain the origin of the first Avatar, there are certain aspects of it I don't 100%. Well, first off, I don't really hate those episodes. Those episodes are fantastic. They're easily the best two.
Those are the best parts of season 2, in my opinion.
Those are the best 2 episodes of that entire season. But one, after that episode, they completely kind of switch the direction that Korra's character was going. That completely tanks every piece of character development that was happening. And that's one reason why season 2 of Korra isn't very good. Also, I feel like it retcons a few things about the Avatar universe, as well as makes what are they called? Spirits. They make the spirits out to be these things that could easily be manipulated by others, by these 2 other big bad godlike spirits, which I'm not a fan of. Sometimes I think that keeping things a mystery works better than explaining it. If you have anything to say about that?
My example has nothing to do with Legend of Korra. It has to do with Nightwing, actually, because recently, I don't know how recent, or at least I don't remember how recently, but recently enough, I've been reading Nightwing's 1996 series, and I got confused about what series it was. So I was actually reading the 1995 series at first, like in the very beginning, but in his 1995 series, they do some ridiculously stupid stuff where they basically retcon Nightwing's origin into like the Man in the Iron Mask, like the guy who murdered his family was like a hitman for this country that wanted his family dead or something like that for some stupid reason. And so Nightwing like goes and sneaks into this like country where this guy's like king and learns like this whole secret plot about like this guy or about like the king that had like a secret son, but like the son was like super evil, so he'd like either kidnapped the son or killed the son and replaced him with a figurehead that like had plastic surgery to look like his son, was even more of like an evil fascist dude than his actual son. And I don't even remember what it was because it was quite a few months ago that I read it, but it was so dumb as opposed to just the mob. The circus owed the mob money. The mob came after the circus and killed. Dick Grayson's parents got caught in the crossfire. Like that's all it needs to be. It did not need to be like.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Were you finished?
Oh no, well, kind of. I'm like all I'm saying is like it does not need to involve like a country and a king and like a plot to overthrow the government. Like just kill his parents are dead and they died because of the mob.
Sometimes less is more, and sometimes when they try to explain the origin of something, they kind of add in a bunch of details that just kind of muddle things. I feel like a big example. This isn't something that actually happened, but if it did happen, I feel like would be an example of them ruining the mystery and making things weird as F. They explained the origin of the Force in Star Wars, and like somehow, even thinking about it and trying to figure out how they could do it, I'm thinking, like how? Why would they? It would make no sense. For them to explain the origin of the Force would be ridiculous. It would be much like how people believe in God today. We don't know how, for people who do believe in God, you don't know how he came about. You don't. You just know that he's there. That's what the Force is supposed to be. The Force is supposed to be like God. The Force is supposed to just be everything and everywhere at all times. You know? The Force is literally their version of, like the Star Wars universe version of God, of like Christianity.
Right.
And that's all it's supposed to be. You don't want to over-explain that. You don't want to say, like, once upon a time, there was this dude. His name is the one above all. He one day started giving his energy out to random people across the world. And those people are Force users. That would ruin a lot. So imagine if they introduced a god who was the person that gave everyone their Force abilities. And people who became Force sensitive were people chosen by that god. Would you like that, Amir?
No, I mean I like the explanation of the ones. I feel like for people that don't know Star Wars, that's not the actual explanation of like the Force and stuff like that. But I was gonna say I like the explanation of the ones that they have, like the Force gods that they do. I like that explanation. But no, that would be
the Force gods that they do have. They aren't really like the gods of the Force. They were created by the Force.
Right, they're physical embodiments of each aspect.
By the Force, not that they literally are the Force. But yeah, that's basically my little rant about over-explaining the origins of literally anything, especially when it comes to like overarching power base, like the Avatar in Legend of Korra or the Force in Star Wars, which, like I said, they haven't over-explained the Force. The Force, like we're going to talk about this because we plan on having a dedicated Star Wars episode, but
which we were just talking about before this.
Yeah, but basically, they, of all the mistakes that they have made in the Star Wars universe, one they haven't done yet, which I'm sure they probably never will because they aren't stupid enough to do it, is over-explain the origin of the Force, or even try to explain the Force, which is something that doesn't need to be explained. But moving on, MCU films all got pushed back. Amir said that he isn't as excited as he was before because of that, but
I don't think I'm as excited for any of these movies as I was before, except maybe Spider-Man. I don't like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I don't like MCU Spider-Man, but I'm kind of excited for what I'm hearing about like Spider-Man 3, because my favorite Spider-Man, which a lot of people really hate, is Andrew Garfield, and he may, not saying he will, but like there's like a lot of stuff that's suggesting he might be coming back, like his Electro coming back and stuff like that. Like
me and you agreed that we enjoyed both of those movies. We think, like, the first one I think is a great movie. The second one is, but towards the end of the movie, they do way too much.
Yeah.
They do way too much. I think that Harry himself being in the movie wasn't bad. It was him becoming the Green Goblin at the end that should have been saved for a sequel.
Right.
Like, if it was like an end credit scene and he became the Green Goblin, that would have been fine. But he didn't come in, kill Gwen. If Gwen was going to die, I wanted her to die in another movie where they had more time to focus on it.
Right.
Rather than it happening at the end of the movie and then it's all Peter's sad and then we never get another one ever again.
Right.
Also, what is confirmed 100% is that Jamie Foxx will come back as Electro. And,
and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. And he said that he won't be blue, which means he's probably going to be yellow, like he is in the comics. And I've been seeing tons of fan art of people saying what he's going to look like as Electro. Some of them are weird because they try to incorporate the mask, and the mask doesn't really work. Like we talked about the Rhino a couple weeks ago, which we could talk about it one time. That was a whole argument that we don't need to be.
Yeah, no, that was like that was like something personal. It wasn't on the podcast,
but I feel like I would say I feel like we both could agree on this, but based on that Rhino conversation, I'm no longer sure what we agree on. So
just throw it out there. Just throw it out there.
I don't think that Electro's mask can work in live action. Here's the thing, though. I do
agree.
Like I said before, I think potentially anything could work in live action, but I don't think that his mask needs to work in live action. He could just not have a mask. He could be like the Electro from Spectacular Spider-Man, where his body, much like in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, his body was made of electricity. So it was like he was surrounded in like this armor that contained the energy, while his head wasn't a mask, it was just like electricity. And the way the mask could work is that it's not really a mask, it's just like electricity spiking off of his face. That way it could technically work. But of it being like a literal mask on his face, don't do that for the life of God. With Mysterio, we all wanted that fishbowl. I wanted that fishbowl.
I wanted the fishbowl. There's no way you can do Mysterio without the fishbowl.
Yeah, like even though I wanted it a lot, I was still like, is it gonna look right? And then they showed it, and I was like, it does look right. Yeah. But Electro, in my brain, it doesn't work, and a lot of people have tried it. It doesn't work. But there was one in particular that it's weird because seeing Jamie Foxx, a black man, in an Electro suit kind of makes him look like Black Lightning.
Yeah.
They always give him like the lightning bolts on Black Lightning suit that like come in like a V. Every form of Electro I've seen, somebody draws that on him. He looks like Black Lightning, but he's wearing green and yellow instead of blue, yellow, and black.
Right.
But yeah, that sounds cool. So I'm gonna give the actual dates that they've said. May 7th, 2021, Black Widow, which me and Amir both are excited for. Like Amir said, he likes spies.
I love spies.
Black Widow, much like James Bond, he was excited for.
Which James Bond also got delayed yet again.
Yeah, another movie you're excited for, Shang-Chi, is coming out July.
I'm not excited for this movie at all.
Yeah, it's Eternals, which I wasn't really that excited for, but I was interested in. It's coming out.
I'm never excited for Eternals.
November 5th, and Spider-Man 3, which is sounding more and more interesting as the days go by, is coming out December 17th. The only thing I think is that I'm a little bit afraid that they might try and do a bit too much. And that could always mess things up if they try to do way too much. But I'm honestly no longer sure what they're going to do because there have been so many leaks and official announcements that make you go, I'm not sure what they're doing. They're most likely doing Spider-Verse, but we don't know what they're really trying to do with that Spider-Verse. And also, apparently Doctor Strange is going to be in it. So it's probably going to relate to WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness. So no longer have really much of a clue what's happening anymore, other than the fact that it's potentially a Spider-Verse film.
Right.
Which I wanted them to wait before they did it, at least one more movie. But if they do it now, I wouldn't be that mad at it.
Okay. I do real quick want to talk. I'm not going to go on a Harry Potter like rant. That's just going to be like our new channel norm for like a super long rant. It's going to be like Harry Potter. We're just going to reference that. But
yeah, that
I'm not gonna go.
I clipped it, but I never posted it. It was we spent that episode was like an hour 45, and
Yeah.
22 minutes talking about Harry Potter.
Yeah, no, so you guys don't. You guys apparently haven't seen it, but we did go on a long rant about Harry Potter a couple weeks ago. But I'm not gonna go on like a super big rant about Shang-Chi or anything. But Shang-Chi is one of my favorite Marvel characters, my favorite comic book characters of all time. I like out of all my favorite Marvel characters, I think he's like maybe third, like right behind Miles Morales and Clint Barton as Hawkeye. And I love Simu Liu. Okay, like the guy that's supposed to be playing him, Simu Liu, is awesome. He's a great actor. He's a wonderful human being.
I follow him on Twitter. I've never seen any movie he's ever been in, or at least as far as I know, I haven't. And just following him on Twitter, he seems like a cool dude.
Yeah, I used to follow him on Twitter back when I had a Twitter, and I follow him on Instagram. He's amazing. He's an amazing dude. If you want to see what he's in, if you have Netflix, there's a show called Kim's Convenience. It's a Canadian sitcom. Honestly, like, it's probably my favorite show of all time. Like, I find it hilarious. I know a couple of people that don't find it funny. I know a few people that find it hilarious. I find it hilarious. The whole cast on there is all, like, they're all really nice people. But Simu Liu is on there. He's amazing. He's supposed to be playing Shang-Chi. I'm very excited to see what he brings to the role. I have like complete and total faith he's going to like kill it. He's going to be great. Again, I love Shang-Chi. Matter of fact, in my backpack, if you heard Velcro, it's my backpack. Give me a sec to find it. I think this is it. Yep, this is it. I have my giant Master of Kung Fu Volume 4 omnibus. Cost me $125. Like, I'm a huge Shang-Chi fan. I'm not excited for this movie.
Had a $100 omnibus.
Yes, and it's only volume 4. I'm still trying to find the first 3 volumes that are possibly cheaper than $125 because I don't want to spend $125 again on something. I will if I have to, but I don't want to. But I love Shang-Chi, one of my favorite characters ever. I'm not excited for this movie, specifically because of the fact that the more I hear about it, the less of a Shang-Chi movie it's seeming to be, and the more of Marvel Mortal Kombat setting up the rest of the MCU it's seeming to be. Like, from like now these are all just rumors and they're unconfirmed, but a lot of the time with superhero movies, rumors tend to have some truth in them. I already figured, like, when they were talking about, the Mandarin's going to be in this movie, I already figured that they were just going to replace Shang-Chi's father with the Mandarin, like have the Mandarin fill that role, because Shang-Chi's father is very important to Shang-Chi's character, who he is, his like backstory and everything. But the Mandarin, like even in the comics, like just his character already fills that role. Like all it needs to be is like, and he has a son, Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi did all this stuff, and the Mandarin's there. The Mandarin then takes place of his father. That's not a problem at all. That would have been fine. As a matter of fact, there was a post from a really like trustworthy Instagram page. I'm gonna find that as I keep talking. That was like going over some stuff about the Shang-Chi movie back, like way back when it like first got announced, like maybe like the day after it first got announced. And like all that stuff sounded great. Now I'm hearing he's going to be the son of the Mandarin. Okay, I'm fine with that. That makes sense. I was even theorizing that when I first heard about it, I first heard the Mandarin was going to be in the movie. Okay, that's fine. Then I heard he's a mutant. No, let's not do that. And then he's going to be, or he like was working, or not working, he was part of an orphanage or something like that. No, let's also not have that. That's not Shang-Chi. And then he ran away from the Mandarin, who's his father. No. Then the Mandarin is like trying to get the 10 rings, which he'll win in a tournament. So he's trying to have Shang fight for him in the tournament. And so basically if Shang goes and fights for him in the tournament and wins in the 10 rings, he's going to leave Shang alone. No. And then all these characters in the tournament are a bunch of other B-list Marvel characters that will open up different aspects of the MCU. No, this is sounding, every time I hear something else about this movie, it's sounding less and less like a Shang-Chi movie.
I don't think that last thing you said is necessarily a bad thing.
The last thing I said isn't necessarily a bad thing.
They could still introduce those characters without taking the focus away from Shang-Chi. And
absolutely.
Open up the universe. But why is the part about him fighting for the Ten Rings for Mandarin. F Mandarin's his father. Why is that a bad thing?
Because I feel like every single thing after I keep listening to them just keeps taking more away from Shang-Chi as a character. One of my favorite MCU movies, not my absolute favorite, but one of my favorite MCU movies is probably Captain America: The First Avenger. And it doesn't set up a lot about the MCU. It sets up a little bit about the MCU, which we wouldn't have known otherwise, until the MCU, way down the line. I don't even think they planned half the stuff they set up in that movie at the time they were setting it up. But that movie focused on who he was, or who Captain America was. It set up perfectly his character. You know what I mean? It perfectly set up everything about his character. This movie is seeming to be more of a brand advertisement for what's to come, from everything I'm hearing. Him living in an orphanage with other mutants and stuff like that is sounding like he's going to be setting up mutants. Him being a mutant sounds like he's going to be setting up mutants. Him fighting in this tournament, which, again, I'm fine with that. My favorite Shang-Chi story is about him fighting in a tournament. It's an Elseworld story about him fighting in a tournament for... He wasn't fighting for his father, he was fighting against his father. But I'm fine with that. I don't think that should be the first movie. If they're doing a multiple movie thing for Shang-Chi, I don't think that should be the first movie, and that just sounds more like they're advertising more characters. And that's not even everything. There was more in conjunction with it that I can't remember. And that's starting to make me a little bit mad that I can't remember, but I'm also glad that I can't remember it because I don't want these things to happen, but it's not...
Yeah, I feel like because a good example along with Captain America that hasn't even released yet, that will be an example of them focusing on one character and doing a little bit of setup, like you said, like they did some setup in the first Captain America movie, like they do in every Marvel movie. But Black Widow is going to be an example of them focusing on this character because she's dead.
Right.
If you haven't seen, everybody's seen Endgame. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Black Widow died, and
it's been over a year.
Yeah, this even though I feel like this movie definitely should have came out in between Civil War and Infinity War.
Absolutely.
In my personal opinion, I think it 100% should have came out in between that time because that's the time frame that the story takes place in. And they're going to set up things like the new Black Widow that's definitely going to happen, and Taskmaster's being introduced, and tons of other things. But with Spider-Man, that's what I'm afraid about with Spider-Man 3. I think there's too much setup at Spider-Man 3 that I feel like one good thing to come out of it is maybe they bring back Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man in Sony's Spider-Man universe.
That reminds me a little bit. I heard a rumor.
I think that
go ahead.
I think that a lot of universes are afraid, and DC's not becoming. They're way less afraid of this than Marvel is, of making a movie that uses a character that they've already made a movie with, but doesn't have to do with that other universe that they already set up.
Mm-hmm.
He has already made a movie with the Joker in it, and then they made a separate movie with the Joker in it, and there are tons of Batman movies. They aren't afraid to just make a bunch of Elseworld stories in movie form.
Right.
And because Spider-Man is technically owned by Sony, not technically owned by Sony.
It is. He is owned by Sony. Yeah.
In terms of movie rights, I feel like it makes more sense, and nobody would be confused that there's another Spider-Man and another.
Right.
And to have that Spider-Man in that universe with Venom and Carnage and what's that vampire dude's name? I can't remember his name.
Morbius.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
If they set up something like that, I'd like that a lot actually, because the way that the Sony's Spider-Man universe has been going so far, you could easily throw in either Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in there, and it would make sense. Except not Tobey Maguire because Venom was in there already. You could add.
Yeah.
You could 100% throw in Tobey Maguire. I keep saying Tobey Maguire. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in there, and it would make sense because a lot of the characters that were introduced, that they've introduced or are going to introduce, haven't showed up in Andrew Garfield's story, and one of them doesn't even take place anywhere near New York. One of them's on the other side of the country.
Right.
And the other one does take place in New York, but they could just make it take place in a time frame that, you know, excludes Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's
also mentioned Spider-Man exists in Morbius in the trailer. They showed the Tobey Maguire suit, but they could easily just retcon that and say, nope, it's Andrew Garfield. He did something and now he's wanted for whatever.
right.
And then Spider-Man 3 could release, and for whatever reason, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is wanted because he was framed by some supervillain or something like that. That would actually be really cool, and that's making me excited for something that might not even happen.
Yeah, no, I feel like the fans need to be a lot more in charge than the people actually in charge.
Crazy, because Batman and Spider-Man by themselves could have their own movie universes because their gallery and the world.
I think that's what they're starting to do with the Batman, the Matt Reeves movie, which also got delayed, unfortunately.
But so on to the video games segment of the news portion. So that whole sentence made no sense. On to the video game portion of the news segment.
I feel like most of our viewers don't know us in real life. This is us in real life. Like, if you're watching this, you're getting a good understanding of the type of people we are.
Ghost of Tsushima's DLC and updates. So
Yes.
version 1.2 is coming out next Friday on the 16th, and you can guarantee we'll definitely talk about that a little bit at the beginning of the next episode in the next 2 weeks. But I'm just gonna talk about what's included in that, and then I'm gonna talk about the PS5 teardown and about the new information we've got yesterday, and I think the day before that maybe, about backwards compatibility finally from PlayStation that we've been waiting for forever. And like we said last podcast, they've been holding out so much information.
Mm.
And just like a month before release, now they're like, okay, now we'll tell you, which sucks so much. Xbox has been doing the same thing, despite the fact that, admittedly, Xbox advertisement has been way better than PlayStation's. In terms of advertisement, they've been really selling that Xbox, like hard.
Right.
I also want to say, I don't mean to make our podcast like a PlayStation-centric podcast. It's just
We're both PlayStation players.
a matter of fact that we will talk about Xbox. There's no way we're not going to, but we are going to talk about PlayStation way more because we are way more interested in PlayStation. We'll still make a conscious effort to give you Xbox news, despite the fact that we're way more interested in PlayStation, and Xbox is kind of, admittedly, a bit of an afterthought because I'm not that interested in most of the things they're doing. So for Ghost of Tsushima DLC, first off is the co-op Legends DLC, which is basically you get access to 2-player co-op story missions and 4-player co-op, kind of like raids similar to Destiny, that they will be adding the weeks after the initial update. So the 3 classes are Samurai, Hunter, Ronin, and Assassin. So I'm gonna just go over a bit of what the difference between them is. The Samurai is just straight up combat, just like the regular character you play as in the main story. He has a special ability that basically focuses specifically on combat, that he like unleashes a flurry of strikes that kills a bunch of enemies. The Hunter uses a bow. Their primary strength is their bow. And they're basically like a sniper. The Ronin, their ability is they have access to a spirit dog that can come out and help them fight. And last but not least, the Assassin is the sneaky one, the one that's the ghost part of the title, Ghost of Tsushima, who's basically the one that his primary focus is in assassination and stuff. Now for the story, they add something that we'll talk about more in detail at the very end of this podcast, actually. New Game Plus, which basically, for people who don't know what that is, you're able to play the game again from the beginning with all of the gear that you and all of the upgrades that you unlocked by the time you finish the game. So with that, you're actually not going to start from the beginning of the game where you're on the beach. You're not going to start on the beach. You're actually going to start after he gets knocked over the bridge by the Khan. That's where that's where the game starts with New Game Plus, because that's where the game first opens up into the open world. So that's after you play New Game Plus, be prepared that that whole beginning portion of you fighting on the beach against the Mongols, that's not going to be there. You're going to start straight from when he crawls out of the water, and you know you get the little to call the wind. That's where you'll start. So other features that they add, one that I'm really excited for, because as I've been playing the game a lot more recently because of my excitement for the New Game Plus, but I'm gonna probably not play as much because I feel like I'm spoiling my excitement if I play it too much, and so I'm just gonna stop playing for a bit, and as soon as that update comes out, I'm gonna immediately start playing. But basically, you can have specific classes. So what was a bit annoying to me was every time I wanted to wear a different outfit that specialized in certain things, because each outfit has different kind of like abilities attached to them that either you have increased defense, increased attack, and things like that, or increased you get different abilities once you like hit someone with a hit shot. There are a bunch of different things like that. Now you'll be able to set up a class with a specific mask, hat, armor, and sword, and whatever you want, and charms, and that'll be a class, and you can set up several of them. So that way, if you're going into a mission where, for whatever reason, you decide you just want to use your bow, you can switch to a class that focuses on using the bow. If you want to, be more stealthy on one mission, you can switch to a class that focuses more on stealth. And if you want to fight more, you can make a class that focuses on fighting. I've recently, actually, just to mention, I'm going to ask you too, I've been wearing the Tadayori's armor, the one that you get from doing, I think, I forget what they call it, the legendary quest where you get like the explosive arrow or something like that. I can't remember.
I honestly never got the explosive arrows, but I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and I wear it all black, and I have you remember the name of the woman that was Sensei
Tomoe?
Tomoe. I have her mask. And
I have her mask too. I don't wear it, but I have it.
Tadayori's armor specifically enhances like your range combat.
Mm.
And to basically match that, I put on Tomoe's mask because she was an archer. What is your character currently wearing from the last time you played?
The white ghost armor. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't. Spoiler alert. At the end, you get an option to, again, spoiler alert.
That's why I said white. I didn't want to like talk about the choice.
Kill or spare your uncle, and if you kill him, you get white. If you spare him, you get red. I spared him because I couldn't kill my own, so I got the red.
I killed him because I felt bad.
So yeah, that's what's happening next Friday for Ghost of Tsushima. PS5's teardown. So last week, their PlayStation posted a video of their I actually forget that his position. I should look it up, but basically had someone literally tearing apart the PS5 and showing the innards and how it which made Amir cringe a bit, because seeing something taken apart like that hurts his soul for potential of it, breaking.
I am a broke college student, so seeing anybody break anything expensive is just like, why would you do that?
For me personally, it's calming when I see somebody who knows what they're doing. Like, when I see someone who knows what they're doing, working on a piece of technology and breaking it apart, like right before I watched that teardown, I actually watched someone else take apart the very first PlayStation because it was old and yellow and dirty, and they took it apart and cleaned it and fixed it and then played it. And I enjoy watching stuff like that. It calms me down a bit. But for him, it made him cringe. But
because it's so expensive.
The part that Amir doesn't have to worry about breaking when he takes it apart is takes it apart because this is the part where you're supposed to be able to take this part apart. I don't know why I said it like that, but but anything beyond that, you shouldn't do. Basically, there's a sticker, and under that sticker is a screw. Once you get to that point, your warranty's done, first off. Your warranty's done. Secondly, that's when you could potentially mess up your console. So as long as you don't go that far, you're good. Otherwise, you could take off the faceplates, which, if you don't know what the PlayStation 5 looks like and you're watching the episode where we talk about PlayStation 5, just Google.
Just go watch the teardown video.
My editing skills isn't that good yet. Otherwise, I would just straight up show you an image of the PlayStation 5. But basically, it has these big white panels on the side that are removable. And on one side, when you remove it, there is a little port for SSD, which is a solid state drive. You unscrew it and you put in your SSD for extra storage. That's a part that America could do without worrying about breaking it. That's meant to happen so that you can upgrade your storage. And also, the faceplates, 100% they're going to be so many custom faceplates. And I'm wondering if PlayStation will, I'm sure they will 100% sell custom consoles with like different faceplates, like they did with the old consoles, with the PS4.
Mm.
But I wonder if they're going to actually sell the faceplates specifically, like separately from the console itself. Because I want them to do that rather than if you want a different faceplate, you have to buy a whole console.
Right.
So I hope they sell different faceplates specifically. Is there any way you would want your faceplate to be other than like black, or would you just want it to be black?
Of course, I want it to be black. I'd love a Miles Morales print. No, oh, I know. I want a Hawkeye custom one with like the Hawkeye logo on the sides of it. That would be awesome. Like it's black. It just has like the purple Hawkeye logo on it. Yeah, no, I would want that.
There's so many really cool options for it. I'm excited to see because I've seen tons of dope designs, especially one for Miles Morales, which where it was essentially black. The panels were black, but there was like a red spider web going across it, and in the center of that spider web was the spider shape that he has on his back, and but it wasn't like flat on that. It was like protruding out, it was like protruding out a bit, and it looked really good. That's about it. No, actually, no. For the teardown, one big thing that they showed was how the PlayStation is being cooled, which from what they've shown, it seems like the PlayStation is going to be 100% silent, which I personally haven't had really that many problems with hearing my PlayStation's fans.
I haven't either.
I think I've heard them before, 100%. My PlayStation has been loud before. I know that. But I don't often hear the fans because usually my TV is loud enough to where I'm playing a game, noises are happening while I'm playing the game. I can't hear my PlayStation because I'm focused on sounds that are happening in the game. But I know for a fact that my PlayStation does occasionally sound like a jet engine. I've heard it. It's never annoyed me though, like to the point where I was upset. But what it does is slow down the console a bit. So that's the point of cooling, so that your PlayStation doesn't really burn out. And to do that, PlayStation 5 has a giant double-sided fan in it that blows cool air throughout to cool it down. And it has a gigantic heat sink, which for people who don't know what a heat sink is basically a piece of metal with piping throughout it that essentially absorbs all the heat created by the electronic parts as they are functioning and keeps everything from overheating. And the one that PlayStation has is gigantic, and in conjunction with the fan will keep your PlayStation cool and essentially completely silent. That was the biggest takeaway from the PS5 teardown. But another big, PS5 news that we got is backwards compatibility with PS4 games. So I'm going to read some things from the PlayStation blog. And essentially what they've said is that it's backwards compatible with a lot of games. There are literally only 10 games that aren't backwards compatible. Just 10. That's it. Every other PS4 game, whether it be disc or you have it downloaded, you could transfer it to your PS4. You could also transfer all your save data from even a game that you had as a disc. You can transfer that over to your PS5, and they will all see upgraded load times. Like the load times will be much faster on PS5 because of that system. The 10 games that aren't included are 10 games that nobody's really going to miss that much. I'm sure there's probably someone who will, but not many people. It's a game called DWVR. I don't know what that is. Afro Samurai.
I've never even heard of it.
Afro Samurai 2: Revenge of Kuma, Volume 1. What the
that I'm sad. I'm slightly sad about, but like at the same time.
Did you not hear that name? Afro Samurai 2: Revenge of Kuma, Volume 1. What?
Yeah.
2, Volume 1? That's not how that works.
I'm just
Ride on the Edge 2. Just deal with it. Shadow Complex Remastered, Robinson The Journey, We Sing, Hitman Go, Definitive Edition.
That's a mobile game anyway. If you really want it that bad, just download it on your phone.
And Joe's Diner. That's about it.
I haven't heard of most of those. The only ones I've heard of are Afro Samurai.
When I saw Afro Samurai,
Hitman Go.
People are gonna be upset about Afro Samurai, but it's not that deep.
I'm slightly upset about it, but at the same time, that game is. I'm almost positive that game was on the 3 as well. Like you have multiple ways to play that game.
Yeah. Essentially, you'll still be able to play pretty much every single PS4 games that you have, unless you have one of those 10 games. Like I said, if you have it downloaded, you can transfer that over. If you have it on disc, you can just put the disc in, and all you have to do is update it, and boom, you can play it. That's dope. It took them a very long time to say those very simple words of just, yes, it's backwards compatible. That's all they had. All those months ago when people were like, it's backwards compatible, it's backwards compatible, it's backwards compatible, all you had to do was go, yes, it's backwards compatible. It's because when they take so long to answer your question, it makes you feel like, did you just now figure out how to do it?
Right.
Did you literally a couple days ago just figure out how to make your console backwards compatible? And now in the following month, the consoles will be built in a way to where now they're backwards compatible, but originally they weren't. Like when you take so long to answer a question, it makes the players feel like you didn't have that thing before. Like Miles Morales, because they aren't showing us anything, even though I have faith in them and believe that the game is finished, there's still that thing in the back of my head going, is it though?
Right. Why haven't they showed more?
We
were actually talking about this. Personally, I did want to bring this up real quick. We were talking about this personally. There's a very low chance of this happening. Like it's not a big chance at all. It was more of a speculation. Oh, what if? I'm excited for Spider-Man Miles Morales. I am very upset about the fact that Miles lives in Harlem rather than Brooklyn, because he lives in Brooklyn in the comics, and Brooklyn is just as much an important character to Miles Morales as much as Miles is, as much as his parents is, as much as his friends are. So I'm still quite salty about that. But we had speculated just a little bit about what if the reason that they're not showing anything is because they could possibly be bringing Brooklyn into Miles Morales and they just don't want to show that. And it's probably not going to happen. It was just more like fun speculation of, oh, what if, maybe. But I'd be very excited I'd be very happy if that was the...
I want to point out, but what we do feel like is that they probably 100%, we're not 100, I want to say a good 80, maybe over 80% chance we believe that both Queens and Brooklyn will be added to the map in Spider-Man, potentially. And if they are adding Brooklyn in this game, they'll probably be adding Queens in the next game. Secondly, I was playing a game and I was going through the bios of the characters in the menu. You know how you could do that in Batman, the Arkham games? You could do the same thing.
Mm.
And it says that he's from Brooklyn.
Okay.
It says that Miles is from Brooklyn. So I think when you were mentioning how they said that he moved from somewhere else to Harlem, he might be from Brooklyn. They might have moved from Brooklyn to Harlem because it says he was born in Brooklyn. Now that doesn't mean he's from Brooklyn, but both his parents are from both his parents are from there as well. So I think potentially he did grow up in Brooklyn and then they moved to Harlem. So they might be you might still get what you want. He might still be from Brooklyn.
I hope so. I just hope they move back to Brooklyn at some point.
At the very least, even if they stay in Harlem, just having that borough available and him being able to go back and visit people would be dope. Like, what if?
Yeah, no. If Brooklyn's available,
I forgot to mention this before, but I hope, and I feel like there's no way they aren't with how popular he became in the movie. Is that the Prowler is introduced, and what if his uncle lives in Brooklyn? What if his uncle Aaron lives in Brooklyn? That's where the Brooklyn connection comes in. You go to Brooklyn because Uncle Aaron lives in Brooklyn, and the Prowler is a part of the story. If the Prowler is a part of the story, actually makes, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense that the Prowler probably will be there in the game, because the Tinkerer could potentially have made Aaron's gear, because in the comics, Aaron always has to go to somebody and get new gear. When he's stuff, literally in the current story, he is being hunted by everybody in New York because he borrowed some gear, and to pay them back, he had to assassinate somebody. But Miles messed up his assassination job, so now everybody's like, "Now we're after you." Well, actually, they fixed that problem, but that was a problem.
They did fix that problem. It's hard to keep up with what's currently going on in that series because COVID delays it.
And Ultimatum does look like an idiot. Ultimatum's costume is horrible.
So you did read it. I did recommend it. You have started reading it?
I didn't read it. I watched Comic Story.
Okay. Yeah, no, Ultimatum looks dumb, but he's really cool. Like, he's already a really cool character. His costume looks so stupid.
He is Miles, though.
He is Miles. He's 616. That's a spoiler. Oh my god, yeah.
I should have said spoiler.
Read his current series if you haven't, because it's good.
I'm gonna cut that out. I'm gonna say it right here. Spoiler alert: Ultimatum is Miles.
Okay.
But because I realized you didn't tell me that last time, because I felt like you didn't want to spoil me, and then I saw it and I was like, oh, he is.
I feel like I didn't tell you.
Yeah, because the whole time I was like, why didn't he tell me this? I feel like it's like a big part of this character that he just didn't tell me about.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to spoil it.
But yeah, now back to basically Ghost of Tsushima. Honestly, we're going to talk about New Game Plus. So, wait a minute. I forgot I skipped over the beginning part because I wanted to save it for last because it was going to take longer, which is the animation portion. I keep saying animation portion of the segment. Animation segment of this portion of the podcast, which is what video games would work as animated series. Now, we haven't been getting many comments on this, but I talked to people who specifically I know have watched the entirety of the episode. A couple friends of mine, as well as people that I work with, have said that they have watched the entire podcast. So for those people watching, I would like for you to comment and tell me what video games have you played, even if you're not a big gamer, just video games that you see. It could be Mario, it could be Sonic, it could just be something popular that you used to play when you were a kid. Could you see as an animated series? So for me, I want to start off with mentioning a series that is being animated that I think will work wonderfully is Resident Evil. Resident Evil has had several animated movies, but the movies have been pretty much like Resident Evil 5 and 6 in a sense that they're straight up action movies. Much like the Resident Evil live action movies and Resident Evil 5 and 6, they're just action movies, and nobody wants that. Well, some people want it. I don't want it. And most Resident Evil fans don't want it because Resident Evil is meant to be a survival horror franchise. The action, of course, is meant to be there because in Resident Evil, unlike a game like Outlast, you're actually able to fight back. So there needs to be a bit of action, but not too much that it completely takes away from the horror aspect. And Infinite Darkness, from the 45-second teasers that they've shown, looks like it incorporates both action and horror pretty well. From the poster, I'm stuttering. From the poster, it looks like that Leon and Claire are going to be the main characters of it's called Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. It seems like they're going to be the main characters. But 3 games that I want to mention before Nick gives his is I want to see The Legend of Zelda animated again because the old series was a bit goofy and it was weird. It's hilarious actually. Look up on if you're in The Legend of Zelda, you want to see something hilarious. Even if you're not in Legend of Zelda, just look up Legend of Zelda animated series. clips. It's hilarious. Link,
I've seen them.
yeah, Link doesn't. For anybody who doesn't know, Link straight up just doesn't talk in any of the games. He talks in the show, and it's weird, and it's funny. And the way he acts isn't the way you would think Link would act in the games, and it's really funny. There's been a Mario animated series. I actually have no idea what happened to that series.
There's been a couple of them, but one of them was really, really, really good.
Yeah, Mario is much like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
He could easily work as a Mickey Mouse started a cartoon. What am I talking about? But Mario could also work like Mickey Mouse does as a really popular cartoon character. Everybody knows Mario. Most little kids love Mario. Like Mario as a children's show would be great. Like it could be like one of those children's shows that it's a children's show, but they got some adult jokes in there. So if you watch it with your kids, you can enjoy it too. And last but not least, Final Fantasy. Because for me personally, we literally talked about this last podcast and probably podcast before that, and we'll probably continue talking about it forever, about how I'm not that big into turn-based combat, and that's why I wasn't that big into Final Fantasy until I played Final Fantasy VII Remake and saw Final Fantasy 16 trailer a couple weeks ago, which we talked about. And I think that if they take that story and animate it from the beginning, from the first Final Fantasy, or if they want just do Final Fantasy VII because that's the most popular one, and just animate that, it would be fantastic. It makes they're because there literally are. I think there's one, but there are Final Fantasy one movie specifically about Final Fantasy VII, but there are several Final Fantasy VII Final Fantasy animated movies, 3D animated movies. But a 2D animated or even 3D animated, honestly, because it started as a video game.
The 3D animated Final Fantasy movies, in my opinion, aren't that great.
Well, no, they're not that good. But because the games are good, there's the potential of the stories. All they need is a good writer. That's about it. All they need to do is a good writer and for it to be serialized rather than one film or a couple of films. And when I say animated, actually, it doesn't have to be limited to a series. You could say it could be an animated movie. So, you got anything?
Yeah, actually, while you were talking, I was trying to think of a few video games I would want to see animated. I wanted to start with Sleeping Dogs, but I don't want Sleeping Dogs to be animated. I want Sleeping Dogs to be like a full-on live-action HBO TV show.
That would work better in live action.
It would work way better in live action. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, or not TV shows, one of my favorite video games of all time. And I want it to be like an HBO original series, or not original, obviously, but like an HBO series with top-notch budget and everything.
Yeah, but, everybody watching understands why you specifically point out HBO, because HBO is known to put money into their series.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones. They put money in.
Oh yeah. Let's see, what video game would I want? Does it have to have originated as a video game? It has to have originated, so I can't pick Spider-Man.
No. Spider-Man has animated series, even though you want a better...
Yes, he does, but. No, just hear my pitch, right? Hear my pitch. In the Spider-Man PS4 universe, animated in the same style as the new DC animated universe movies, so Son of Batman, Justice League Dark, stuff like that, animated in that style. But Spider-Man PS4, there's a police siren going on and stuff like that. Spider-Man PS4 in that universe with all that stuff going on with that suit, and it doesn't adapt the game, but it adapts the DLCs and the comics that take place in that universe. I would pay so much money for that. Same voice actors and everything. I would pay a lot of money for that.
Here's what I would say about that is I agree, because I feel like if they just made it would just be like a mini series. Every not even the DLC, because the DLC is obviously DLC. You could actually play it. But specifically, if they take the comics and if we're being real, most people who play the video game aren't going to read those comics. But what they would do is watch an animated series that basically tells the same story that those comics do. So I agree with you. If they animated those tie-in comics, that would actually be really cool.
Yeah.
Got any other ones that are original video games? I have
original video games.
That I could would like that we both would like, but I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, I would love a Watch Dogs animated series. Not just any Watch Dogs though. Watch Dogs 2. And I meant to add that to media I'm consuming. I'm replaying Watch Dogs 2. And it's probably my favorite video game of all time. Like, it's just something about it with the hacking, the setting, the colors, the art direction, the humor, like all of it just mixes together. It's perfect. I would love like a Watch Dogs 2 adaptation, animated and like not in the style of Spider-Verse, but like
Have you ever seen Love, Death, and Robots?
I've seen a little bit of it.
So there's an episode on that called The Witness, and the dude who directed, animated, and wrote that episode, he did the first trailer for not the trailer, but do you remember that animated trailer for Watch Dogs Legion, where it was like a dude running from people through the street?
Yeah.
That was animated. It didn't look animated at first, but that was animated. And he basically that same art style that he uses for that trailer, he did for that episode of Love, Death, and Robots, which is an anthology animated series on Netflix for anyone who doesn't know. That I watch all of. It's fantastic. You should finish watching it if you haven't. But if it was in that specific style from that Watchdog Legion's trailer, a Watchdog show would be fantastic. Even though I think it would actually work in live action more. It would work in live action better, in my personal opinion. But animated, I could also see it. I also wanted to say that Watch Dogs 2, it's funny that you mentioned it because I tweeted about it yesterday because someone, I was listening to a podcast where someone was talking about, no, I commented under a podcast on YouTube where someone was talking about streamers playing games for like 7 hours long. And he was saying how he couldn't do it because that's a lot of time to sit in front of a screen playing video games. The longest time I've sat down and played a video game ever was Watch Dogs 2. Because I got one for my little brothers for their birthday. But before I gave it to them, I wanted to beat it myself. And I sat down, I got it at 12. I got home from after getting the GameStop at 12 p.m. p.m. I played it from then until 12 a.m. Went to sleep, woke up at 6, and played it for another 12 hours until I beat it. So essentially, I played the main story for 12 hours straight. One day, woke up, played it for 12 hours straight again until I beat it. That was the longest time consecutively that I've played a game. I've never played a game for that long, sitting down in one sitting, ever again. And I don't know if I ever will, but Watch Dogs 2 is the longest I've sat down and played the game, and that game is indeed really fun. It takes everything from Watch Dogs that Watch Dogs kind of didn't deliver a lot of the things that they said were going to be in the game, and Watch Dogs added all of those things that they didn't add in the first game that they were going to have. One, because it was in Seattle, I feel like the traversal was better because in Chicago there are so many tall buildings everywhere blocking your view.
No, Watch Dogs 2 is in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They're next to each other, Seattle and San Francisco.
They are actually very close, but yeah.
In reality, they're actually not that close because the United States is gigantic. But
well, yeah, California's huge.
Yeah, in reality, the distance between Seattle and California is the size of a country because most countries aren't as big as our country.
Right.
But yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off and go on this long.
You're good.
But I just want to say that the characters, one of the biggest parts of Watch Dogs 2 that I feel like they did better than the first game, despite the fact that I did like a lot of the characters from the first game, is that on top of the fact that the main character was black, all of the characters were way more relatable because they were younger, and also they were, I guess, funner. No, Aiden,
way more fun.
Aiden is a grizzled old man.
Yeah.
In the first game, he's a grizzled old man. In the second game, he's still a grizzled old man. In the third game, he's still going to continue to be a grizzled old man.
Yeah.
While these characters are fun and they're young and they're fighting, but they're having fun with it. They aren't so serious about everything. Spoiler alert for the first Watch Dogs for anyone who hasn't played it. I forget her name, but that girl that died.
I forget her name too. There's so much about the first Watch Dogs that's just so forgettable for me.
She was probably my favorite character in there because she was much like the characters in the second game. She
Mm,
was younger than him. She was funner. She wasn't as like dark and brooding as Aiden.
right.
Like Aiden's a cool character to come back as. He's like Ezio in Assassin's Creed. He always comes back, but he doesn't always need to be played.
Right. He wasn't playable in Watch Dogs 2, and I don't know. That's not true because I did see the trailer for the DLC for Watch Dogs Legion.
In Legion.
Yeah.
Him and
Wrench is back, and I'm so excited about that.
him and Wrench.
Because Wrench and Marcus were my two favorite characters from Watch Dogs 2, and Wrench is back. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, Wrench, I'm not gonna lie, I was mad disappointed when his mask came off. He was just like regular. It was like Kakashi in Naruto. When they finally showed his face, the only thing that was weird about his face, he had a mole like below his mouth. Like
Yeah, no, with Wrench, all he had was like a scar and like a tattoo, and I'm like, bro.
yeah.
No.
But Wrench was one of the best characters.
Wrench is like the best. I don't care what anybody says. If there are people that dislike Wrench,
I wish they never took his mask off.
I do too.
Because that mystery was so dope until it wasn't because they, took his mask off. But that mystery,
Right.
wondering what he looks like and who he is and all that stuff was so dope. Because you have no idea. Here's the thing, I'm not as interested in Watch Dogs Legion as I was with in Watch Dogs 2 because after playing the first,
I'm not interested in Legion at all.
Yeah, because when I played the first Watch Dogs, you could see the potential after playing it. Because you saw all the stuff from all the trailers and gameplay events that they had for the first Watch Dogs that made you go, wow, this game can be dope. And then you play it, and it was interesting, but it wasn't as dope as you wanted it to be. And then Watch Dogs 2 took all of that and turned it up.
In my eyes, Watch Dogs 2 is the perfect sequel.
And it was fun. And Watch Dogs Legion, the reason I'm not a fan of it is because, unlike Watch Dogs 2, they don't have any characters for you to get attached to and love.
I was just about to say the same thing. One of my favorite things about Watch Dogs 2 is like all the characters are all super relatable and like you can get attached to the characters. I think the only one that I didn't really get attached to was Horatio, which like spoiler alert isn't a problem because he dies like halfway through the main story.
Actually,
But
I forgot about that.
yeah, no, Horatio was a very forgettable character, which feels really bad to say because like they do a really good job of getting you attached to characters in this game, but like he was super forgettable. But like you get attached to these characters and then it doesn't seem like you can get attached to a character in Legion because like if they die they're gone for good and then they just swap you to a completely new character and it's like
And it's weird because despite the fact that their track record is iffy, Ubisoft knows how to make you like characters. Like they do it, like Assassin's Creed. Every Assassin's Creed you play as a new character. They still find a way to make you like that character. Altair, he was cool, but he was in the first game. That was a long time ago. Nobody really thinks about Altair that often. Ezio is most people's favorite assassin. Connor,
the games without Altair expanded on Altair. Like that's when people started liking him as a character.
Every game they mention Altair because they have to because he was the first.
Yeah.
Ezio's, like I said, most people's favorite. He had 3 games. Of course, he's going to be most people's favorite. Connor was fun. I like Connor. What was his grandfather's name? Edward. Edward Kenway was cool. You said you particularly like the twin siblings and Syndicate.
Oh, Jacob and Evie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the one in France?
I forget what his name. Arno.
Unity.
I don't like Arno. I like Arno in the DLC. I don't like Arno in the main game just because he has like the personality of a wet cardboard box.
Yeah, a lot of the characters they like. Ubisoft knows how to make you like characters. Other than in that first Watch Dogs, they know how to make you like characters because they constantly have to change characters almost every game they do. But for some reason in this game, I get why they did it. It's meant to be like this cool, interesting mechanic, which it kind of is. But it also takes away from the story that you had to connect to. Like, here's the thing. If it was like GTA, where there were like 3 characters, you played GTA 5, right? There's no way you had it.
Yeah, I played GTA 5.
If I ever heard someone say they never played GTA 5, it would be weird.
Actually, I haven't played GTA 5 until recently. Like, I had not played it until quarantine started. Just because it never interested me that much. And like quarantine started and I had time before college started, and I was like, yeah, I might as well.
Yeah, but
So,
in that story, when you switch between the characters, you like pressed on the D-pad, and if they did something like that with Watch Dogs, where it would be cool if they introduced a new character in Legion, and then the other two characters you had access to were Marcus and Aiden. That would have been dope.
that would be cool.
If you got a wholly new character in Watch Dogs Legion, this British person, and then the other two characters you get access to are Marcus and Aiden. And in my opinion, just to add diversity to the entire cast, is a white dude, a black dude, and the other dude should have been an Indian person. A woman. Okay. It should have been an Indian woman specifically. Just add some diversity. Okay. I always hear people talk about how the Indian food in Britain is way better than the Indian food in America. I've never had Indian food, so I wouldn't know. But
you never had Indian food?
I've never had Indian food. No, not really.
Bro, that's like actually insane.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't really know like what food they have, other than like I hear people talk about curry, and like that's all I know. I don't know what type of food Indian people eat. Like I've never had it. I'll have to try it one day.
Yeah, you do have to.
What type of meat do they put in their food? Because I don't eat pork and I don't eat beef.
They don't either. So you're good.
Okay, good. Because I wasn't sure what type of food people like in their culture ate, so I didn't want to go eat Indian food and mistakenly eat like some beef or something.
You're not going to. Yeah, no. I could have this information wrong, but like cows are sacred in India. Like, yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, but if it has some chicken in it, or some if they have some type of fish, I'll be fine.
There's lots of chicken in Indian food. At least the Indian food I've had, there's usually lots of chicken.
I am pilotarian. I only eat fish and birds.
Okay.
Technically, if dinosaurs were alive, would it count for me to eat dinosaurs since they have feathers? Would that make them cultured?
No. Most dinosaurs were not classified as birds.
That was a weird question, but anyway.
It was a very weird question. That question came out of the blue.
Moving on. The final thing we're going to talk about before we end this podcast is replayability in single-player games. So I've been replaying 3 games in particular, and I'm going to start replaying another game starting next Friday with Tsushima New Game Plus. But I've been replaying God of War, The Last of Us Part 2, and Spider-Man. The reason I've been replaying every single one of those games is because they have New Game Plus, which, like I said earlier, is you can play the game from the beginning to again with all the upgrades and equipment that you unlocked by the end of your playthrough. And The Last of Us Part 2, like the story or not, a lot of people try to trash on the gameplay for some reason. And here's the wildest part that people always say when they try to trash on the gameplay is that it's just like the first game.
No.
What?
No.
It's nothing like the first game. A big criticism of the first game, despite how good the story is, a lot of people criticize the gameplay because not even majority, almost every time in The Last of Us, the first game when you fight, you're in a hallway. That's it. Every single combat scenario in the first Last of Us, you're shooting people in a hallway, and people say that it's a hallway shooter. That's what people call The Last of Us Part 1, a hallway shooter, because you're always in a hallway shooting zombies or you're shooting people. That's all The Last of Us Part 1 is. The Last of Us Part 2 is like I said before, it's one of the best stealth games I've ever played in my life. Amir, one of these days, you should try that game. Have you played the first one before?
I have played the first one. I'm just not a big... Okay.
Here's the thing.
I'm not a big fan of The Last of Us, even the first one. Like, I just didn't understand the appeal.
Like, once the price goes down to something, like, just buy it for, like $15 at GameStop and play it.
Okay.
Once you experience that stealth combat and how the AI function, you, like every other stealth game you'll play, you'll go, this just isn't good enough.
Okay.
That's how good I think the stealth is. I think the stealth is so good that it makes you play other stealth games and go, it's this isn't good enough. I need you to do better. Because The Last of Us Part 2 blew it out of the water. Combine that with the New Game Plus and you having all of those weapons and upgrades you got from the last playthrough. And every time I do New Game Plus, I up the difficulty. Otherwise, it's going to be a breeze.
Right.
I think I did that with The Last of Us Part 2. Much like God of War, I think I got destroyed and lowered the difficulty back down. But with The Last of Us Part 2, which makes it, I think, probably the most accessible game of all time in terms of for anybody, whether you're disabled or you're a person who don't play games that much, you could adjust the difficulty in some very specific ways in the sense that you can adjust the difficulty of stealth. You can adjust the difficulty of how much gear will be available for you to scavenge. You can adjust the difficulty of the enemies specifically, and you can. I think that's about it. you can fine tune different parts of the difficulty to the way you want it to be, so that you could play comfortably. On top of the fact that they have a bunch of options for hearing impairment, vision impairment, mobility impairment, they just have so many options to make it an easy game for anybody to play and experience. And that's something that pretty much everything that Naughty Dog does, ignoring the story because that's a controversial thing, that you can have your opinion however you want on the story, but the gameplay and their accessibility options, as well as their replayability options, are just top notch. I don't feel like anything surpasses how good this game is mechanic wise. The photo mode's fantastic. Every game needs photo mode.
Oh yeah.
How many photos have you taken in Ghost of Tsushima? Do you take photos that much in games?
I do actually, depending on the game. Let me check real quick because I actually used to take pictures and just like send them to Tyler, because Tyler and I would just start taking pictures in Ghost of Tsushima and just sending them to each other. Let me check and see, because it's quite a few.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna have to get your PSN so I can send you some photos, so that I can then download the photos onto my phone.
I'm checking these screenshots real quick. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Going through my photos in photo mode. A couple of days ago, I was going through all my Ghost of Tsushima photos. One, there's some fantastic photos in there that I'm proud of. Two, the game is gorgeous. That game is absolutely gorgeous. I can't believe how beautiful the landscapes in that game are. But I digress. We just got sidetracked. But photo mode isn't 100% like off track from what we were talking about. Because
37. Sorry.
Well, I have like 150 something. But
oh god.
But that's a lie. It's 50 something.
Okay.
But in Last of Us Part 2, there are also cheat codes, which is weird to say in 2020.
Yeah, I was gonna say I miss cheat codes.
Games don't really have cheat codes anymore. But I'll take that back. I don't know if every single Uncharted game has had cheat codes, but the first 3 have cheat codes. And this game, Last of Us Part 2 is also a Naughty Dog game, and they also include cheat codes. Essentially, the way the cheat codes work in Naughty Dog games is that for doing specific things in the game, you earn points, and by the time you finish the game, you have a certain amount of points. And you can spend those on character models, so you can look at the models of the different characters in the game and like turn around and look at them. Or you could spend it on cheat codes. So some of the cheat codes are unlimited, like basically your items don't break. Because if you have like your melee weapons, specifically, they break. Silencers, they break. If you get that, your silencers don't break, your melee weapons don't break. Obviously, there's unlimited ammo. There's one that like increase your health and stuff like that. Excuse me. Cheat codes that you get all the time.
Right.
Games don't really have cheat codes anymore. I feel like this should become a more common thing for there to be cheat codes, even if it's like you have to. I think it's actually better if it's the cheat codes only are unlockable after you beat the game. That way you have no choice but to play the game through the way you're supposed to. But if you want to replay the game, you have cheat codes to basically add modifiers to your gameplay and make it a bit more fun and make it a bit more different and unique from your original playthrough. And that is what I want to talk about the most. Gameplay modifiers, New Game Plus, and being able to come back with all the equipment you had before. Those are things I feel like should be in every game, every single game that allows replayability. Because it makes your replay more interesting.
Oh yeah.
I don't like the reason I haven't started, and most people haven't started replaying Ghost of Tsushima, because everybody was just waiting for New Game Plus. Because
I started replaying it.
Yeah, a lot of people have actually, but a lot of people also have it because everybody's like, they have to add New Game Plus, right? It would be weird if they didn't. And of course they did. They are adding it next Friday. And I can't bring myself to replay games too often. Like PS3 games, a lot of PS3 games I've replayed 1,000 times. But nowadays, newer games, I can't bring myself to replay them if they don't have New Game Plus. I started replaying Spider-Man, but then I stopped like halfway through because I just didn't like anymore. But recently, I've been just running through the story on New Game Plus with the maximum difficulty, which isn't even that hard. I still destroy people, despite the fact that I'm on the maximum difficulty. But New Game Plus and cheat codes, which is maximize replayability. How you feeling? You haven't said much.
I want New Game Plus in basically every game that has a campaign. I feel like it should just be. I mean, not every game, because it would really only work in like RPGs, but like
action games.
Yeah, but like all of them, they need them.
Every action game needs a photo mode and a new. Well, you don't even need to be an action game to have a photo mode. Almost every game should have a photo mode in general. But every action game should have a New Game Plus. Now I'm now imagining Devil May Cry technically has a New Game Plus, because you could it's not even called New Game Plus. You could just straight up start a new game and still have all the equipment that you had after you beat Devil May Cry 5. You don't even they don't call it New Game Plus. To them, it's just a new game. It's become so basic that every crowd is just like, oh, this is just you playing a game again. Of course, you're gonna want everything you just spent the last 25 hours unlocking. But unless you have anything else to say.
I had an idea for another game that I would love to be an animated series.
Sure, if you have a few more of those, that would be great, actually. Oh,
okay.
I mentioned one as well, so go ahead.
Okay. And we can't like draw this out into a super long conversation, but Destiny and Avengers, or not Avengers, Assassin's Creed.
I was just saying Avengers. Yeah, I think Assassin's Creed.
No, because I was looking at my PlayStation home screen for inspiration to like think about it, and like as I scrolled past to get to Assassin's Creed, I was like on Avengers.
So, one that popped in my brain that has a super unique art style, of which I plan on buying the art book for, because it's a gorgeous game, and we both love this game, and I think it will work wonderfully as an animated series, and that's Dishonored.
Yeah, no, that crossed my mind when you first mentioned it, and just like left.
I think the art style of Dishonored is so good, and it's so different from like most video games. Because it's weird, because it's a first person game, so you don't see the actual character. But once you look at like concept art of the characters,
even the comics,
as you play as, you're like, these characters look really cool, and the way it's kind of a bit more. It's weird because it's like a mixture of kind of blocky but also smooth. I don't know how to describe it. I
feel like
it's hard to describe. It's something that you just have to, I feel like, see. And I know I'm giving you guys a lot of things to Google because my editing skills aren't at the point to where I can just put stuff on screen. I promise I'll get there eventually. But if you can, Google like Dishonored concept art, either Dishonored or Dishonored 2. I plan on getting the Dishonored 2 art book. And also my little brother has been replaying Dishonored 2. And now I'm thinking about replaying Dishonored 2.
Yeah, I'm like starting to look like, oh, Dishonored 2.
I feel like if me and you were to do some streams, we would have to like sit down and play Dishonored 2 together.
I think like we should play a bunch of horror games, or not horror. We should play horror games too. We should play a bunch of stealth games like Hitman, Dishonored, Splinter Cell, like all that sort of stuff.
So actually, so let's wrap this up because we're
Okay.
getting comfortable where it's talking about stuff that we can talk about on the podcast. And I know you want to go work out.
Yes, and study.
Yeah, and study because you go to school. So
Yeah.
I rue the day I have to go back to school. But so this has been episode 3 of the Mustard Cast. I'm Dijon. Wait,
I'm Amir.
I'll figure out ads. I'm just messing up. It's okay. I can edit all of this up. So
Yeah.
you can follow us at Dijon. Why do I keep doing this? Okay.
Edit that part too.
You can all right, so we're gonna end the podcast. You can follow us at the Mustard Cast on Instagram and Twitter. Why are you laughing a bit?
It's the way that you said it. Like,
I'm not editing this part out. We're keeping this part.
okay.
Find us on Instagram and Twitter at the Mustard Cast. You can find me personally on Instagram at either Deshaun Fortune, DESHAUN Fortune, or my art account, which is Dijon Mustard 432. Dijon _Mustard _432. But I'm pretty sure if you type in Deshaun Fortune, all 3 of my accounts will pop up.
Oh, is it my turn? I'm making it your challenge, just like always. Until you get good enough to do it, it's going to be your challenge. Put it in my hand.
I was actually going to tell you, I'm glad you said that because I forgot. I was going to tell you that you should do that at the end of every podcast until the day I can actually do it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to make that. That's your challenge. Just put it in my hand every single time until you're actually able to do it. Well, T_H_N_ Amir. And then, yeah.
All right. This has been episode 3 of the Mustard Cast. Peace.